Hello and good day. This is Corey from the BachScholar YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me today. I have an interesting video for you. It is April 18th, 2022 as I make this video. And I've talked briefly about my newest project in some previous videos. And I'd like to go over an overview of what I have so far on my new and a very exciting project. This project is going to result in a book called Sight Reading and Rhythm. You are probably well familiar with sight reading and harmony by now, the world's leading system of sight reading for keyboard instruments. If you don't have your copy yet, you can download a PDF on the BachScholar website, or you can order the hard copy version from Subdividing Music Publishing. The links are below this video, so you can get this nice thick book with spiral binding here, and this will teach you how to read notes on a staff, and especially with focusing on reading more than one note on a staff in preparation for reading Bach four-part chorales at the piano. Now, sight reading and rhythm. Okay, so this book, and I don't have a deadline on it. I don't work with deadlines, so I do not know yet when the book will be finished. As I told you before, it's April 2022 as I speak. It's well underway now. I would say probably roughly 50% finished right now. So just have patience, and it will be finished in due time. It's a really exciting book, and I want to explain to you what it's about and how it's organized and how it's different and how it will be set apart from other books like it. When I wrote Sight Reading and Harmony, I was well aware that it was lacking in rhythm. Okay, you can go through this whole entire book, Sight Reading and Harmony, and basically all you're dealing with are quarter notes and eighth notes, no tricky rhythms, not very many ties, almost no syncopations. So you're not really dealing with rhythm very much. You're just dealing with notes. And my philosophy of learning to read music, and especially with sight reading and learning any kind of music at the piano, and this would probably apply to other instruments as well. My theory is that it is best to separate all these skills, because I think that most method books throw too much at the student at once. Imagine this. Imagine if you pick up a book, like say a method book on reading music at the piano or any other instrument for that matter, and you have first, they hit you with time signatures. Okay, then they have a key signature. So you have to know your sharps and flats. You have to know your time signature. Then they hit you with note values. You have to know quarter notes, eighth notes, half notes. You have to know what ties are, what rests are. And then you have to do all of this with perfect counting. And to top that off, you have to choose an appropriate tempo. How many beginners can do that? Like nobody. Nobody can do that. It's a no-brainer. This is why I came up with sight reading and rhythm, and why I organize it as the way I do, because it's just absolutely logical the way that things should work. Okay, Unit 1, Counting Fundamentals. How many students try to learn time signatures and note values, and they can't count? Like almost everyone. Counting is, and it's not, it looks easy, but it's not. It's not so easy. You have to learn how to count before you do anything else. So, Unit 1 is only counting. No time signatures, no note values, nothing. It's only counting with a metronome in various ways. So when you finish this unit, you will be an absolute master at being able to count in all different ways. you would be surprised how many different ways there are to count. First of all, you need to be able to count in groups. That's counting in groups is what I liken to matching a pitch if you're a singer. Let's say if you're a singer, if you're learning singing and you need, the first thing you need to do, probably before anything else, is learn how to match a pitch. Like if somebody plays this pitch on the piano, da, you need to be able to match that pitch. You need to not go below that pitch, not go above that pitch. You need to be able to match pitches. That's very basic, very fundamental to the learning of singing. Well, this is analogous to that, in that in order to simply learn how to count, you need to be able to match metronome ticks. So matching metronome ticks at certain speeds by way of clapping or tapping or saying syllables. I do it in various ways here. Saying syllables, tapping like on a flat surface. This is analogous to being able to match pitches. You need to be able to match certain speeds on a metronome. That's all. No time signatures, no note values. We're not saying 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. There's no 1 eanda, 2 eanda, 3 eanda, 4 eanda, which is really ridiculous, by the way. That's not taught in this book. None of that stuff. It's only counting with numbers, usually up to 4, actually goes up from 1 to 8, and then counting on syllables, certain syllables that will enable you to count very freely and readily. Number 2, you need to be able to learn how to consolidate fast beats. So consolidating fast beats means you take fast beats. Most of these counting in groups exercises are with fast beats, like beats faster than 144 on the metronome. So let's say you have a fast beat here. Consolidating fast beats means you have a fast beat going on the metronome. You need to be able to group that into 2s, 3s, or 4s, or 5s, or 6s, or 7s, or 8s. It's a very basic thing, but you have to learn this first before you learn this. Then after you are able to match or reproduce speeds on the metronome by tapping or saying syllables, and you're able to group those in various groups, then comes something a little more challenging. And this is called what I call subdividing slow beats. So now you have a slow metronome beat, like in the 40s, or 36 is the slowest one I use. So you have a really slow metronome beat going like this. You need to be able to subdivide that beat into various equal portions, such as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. That's very basic and essential. But you can't learn this unless you've learned these two. So each one leads to the other. You can't skip steps. When you start sight reading and rhythm, you have to start with Unit 1 counting fundamentals. You can't go any farther or further. I don't know whether it's farther or further. You can't go any further until you've done these in order. After you learn how to subdivide slow beats, which is actually a pretty involved skill. It's really not that easy. I mean, some might find it easy, but some might find it difficult. But you really have to just battle this out and learn counting fundamentals before you move on. The fourth section, and as I speak now, will probably be the last, but I might add another one in there because this is all subject to change, is counting polyrhythms. And counting polyrhythms is a very advanced technique, actually. And I'm going to make it not mandatory for beginners to learn this before they have done Unit 4 polyrhythms. So I'm going to make it so that you have to cover Unit 4 polyrhythms first, or at the same time as doing counting polyrhythms number 4. So for all beginners and everyone that does this book, they have to pass counting in groups, they have to pass consolidating fast beats with the metronome, and then they have to pass subdividing slow beats with the metronome. This is optional, counting polyrhythms. That's more for more advanced students, perhaps upper intermediate level students who are already somewhat advanced with rhythm and are able to do that. But beginners will not be required to do this. Then after you learn counting, well, let's look at it logically, okay? We don't have any time signatures or note values with counting fundamentals. You're just counting with numbers and syllables with a metronome. Well, what comes next? Time signatures? No, not time signatures. That doesn't come yet. Most books throw time signatures at you way, way too early. Next comes note and rest values. You don't have to know anything about time signatures, like 4-4 or 3-4. You don't have to know anything about those things in order to know about note and rest values. It doesn't work the other way around. You shouldn't learn time signatures first and then note values, or you shouldn't learn both at the same time. You should learn first note and rest values, and then rhythmic patterns. You don't have to know anything about time signatures to learn how to tap out or say out with syllables rhythmic patterns. Various rhythmic patterns exist in music, which I'll talk about in a second here, but the first thing we're going to learn in note and rest values, Unit 2, is simply identifying those note and rest values and with simple exercises. And like I said, there's no time signatures involved here. You're just learning how many beats or how many ticks on a metronome you would get for certain note values, like a half note or a quarter note or an eighth note. And then the second thing you're going to learn in Unit 2 is rhythmic patterns derived from the 6 rhythmic modes. I know that sounds a little heady, but let me explain. Back in the very olden days, back in the medieval period of music, around in the 1200s, particularly in France, they were developing ways of music notation. And one of the things that they were battling or wrestling with at that time was, how do you notate these rhythms on paper? And so if you look at the old neumes, they're called neumes, the little square and triangular looking note heads that they had in the 1200s. They had special ways of notating these notes, which indicated certain rhythmic formulas or rhythmic patterns. They called them the 6 rhythmic modes. Think about it. It's kind of like Morse code. I don't know Morse code, but I know that Morse code deals with shorts and longs. There's really only 2 possibilities in music with rhythm. You can have shorts and you can have longs. You can have long, short. You can have a note that's long, da, and you can have a short, da. So long, short, long, short, long, short, long. That's a good example of long, short. You don't have to know anything about time signatures in order to learn these rhythmic patterns. So it's best to learn rhythmic patterns and note values before the learning of time signatures, not the other way around, and not at the same time, because it will be way too confusing if you do it at the same time. Then after long, short, we have, well, short, long. So you have short, long, short, long, short, long. So you have short, longs. Then you have long, short, short. Long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, short, long. And this is a generic kind of thing. This could be a half note followed by 2 quarter notes, but it could be an eighth note followed by 2 16th notes, but you don't know that. So we're just learning these kind of generically along with the note and with the note values that we've learned so far in this chapter, in this unit. So we have long, short, short. Then we have short, short, long. Short, short, long. Short, short, long. So we have some exercises with that. Then we have 2 longs. Long, long, long. That would be like 2 half notes together, or 2 quarter notes following each other, or even 2 eighth notes following each other. Everything is relative. So a long can actually be pretty fast, but it's just in relationship with the next note value. Then the 6th rhythmic mode, here I put letters, I put A through F, but the 6 rhythmic modes are usually numbered from 1 to 6. So the 6th rhythmic mode is short, short, short. So that's when you have da, 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 short, 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 short. That would be like, say, a 6/8 time, for example, if you had to notate it with a time signature. But still, you don't know this yet. You don't know it's 6/8 time. All you know is that is the note value and the relationship between the note values. Which ones are longer, which ones are shorter. And then once you learn the note and rest values, also I forgot to add here, I'm going to have a section on ties. So after this I'll have exercises with ties, and that will introduce syncopation. Okay, so I forgot to add that here. Then once you learn note and rest values, and you learn the rhythmic patterns associated with those values, then it's time to learn time signatures. That comes next. So Unit 3 is devoted only to time signatures, and I break it up into the traditional way: simple duple meters, simple triple meters, simple quadruple meters, compound duple meters, compound triple meters, compound quadruple meters, and then I have a final section here on complex or irregular meters. That would be like 5/8 time, or 7/8 time, for example. And additive meters. Additive meters are when you have, it looks like on paper, it looks like 4/4 time, because there's like 8 eighth notes in the measure, but it's subdivided not as 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, but it might be like 3 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2, or something like that. 6, 7, 8, no, that it would be like 3 plus 3 plus 2, or it's various ways of subdividing the various rhythmic elements within that measure. So then unit time is on time signatures. Notice that this is the logical progression for learning rhythm. This is really the only way, this is the best way to learn rhythms. Too many method books throw everything at you at once. Beginners are, they like I said before, they have to do everything. Time signatures, note values, key signatures. They have to know the notes on the staff. They have to, and then not only that, but they have to learn ties and syncopations and then play it in the right tempo. This is impossible. So we have, you learn to count, you learn the note and rest values, then you learn time signatures. It's that logical. It's a really highly logical system that I don't think anyone has done before. So that's why Sight Reading and Rhythm really stands apart from all other books. I guarantee this will be the best book of rhythm you will ever buy. When it is finished, that is. And Unit 4, polyrhythms. Well, you can't have a complete book on rhythm without polyrhythms. This is going to be an absolute smashing unit on polyrhythms. You cannot not learn polyrhythms by this, and also by learning counting polyrhythms here. So this is a must read. This is absolutely essential for all pianists to learn these polyrhythms. Not just because some of these polyrhythms are in actual pieces of music, but that it increases your brain capacity. Doing polyrhythm exercises actually makes you smarter. It increases your brain cell activity. That's a proven fact. So polyrhythms is great. I love teaching and practicing polyrhythms. It's one of my favorite things. I've got this down to a science, and I will teach it to you in sight reading and rhythm. And then we have tempo and tempo relationships in Unit 5. So a whole unit devoted to nothing but tempo. I will explain proper techniques to use, or sort of, I will have systems of logic in order to determine good practice tempi for pieces of music, plus good performance tempi for pieces of music, and how to select a tempo when you're sight reading something the first time you've seen it. And so it's very important, because that's something that a lot of pianists struggle with is, you know, they may be pretty good sight readers. They may read music well, but they're very poor at choosing appropriate tempi for that sight reading stage. So I lay out some suggestions and tips and rules to follow with tempo and tempo relationships. And I have a special tempo matrix that only I use. It's an original tempo matrix that I invented back in the 1990s. You may have seen things about this before in former videos of mine. Tempo and tempo relationships. Then in Unit 6, we have a 6-tier progressive system of rhythm. So in my sight reading and harmony book, you're probably well familiar with the 5-tier system. You start at the top of the page in part 4. You go to the bottom of the page and it gets a little more complex. And each page gets more complex. You start easy and it gets difficult. Well, I'm planning on that here. So it's in the planning phase right now. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take various time signatures. I'm going to break it up into time signature groups. And I'm going to simply use, I'm going to start with a difficult one, and then I'm going to deconstruct it to the easy. So it will be very easy rhythms with both hands, like you'll be tapping these rhythms or maybe saying syllables on the rhythms. There will be no playing. This won't be note playing on the piano, but will be all rhythmic notation. And this way that you will learn, you can put everything into practice that you've learned so far, put everything into practice and use it actually in a very systematic approach to easy rhythms going to difficult rhythms from the top to the bottom of the page. So I hope that this helps you in understanding my book in progress, Sight Reading and Rhythm. I'm really excited about this. I'm working really hard. It's April 2022 as I speak. Please have patience, and it will be done very soon, and you will be able to get your copy. So thank you for joining me today.